What up, everyone, and welcome back to the WinCity Sports Podcast, the only local sports podcast presented by Amherst Shed Viewing GFC. My name is Drake Demore, and I'm your host for the WinCity Sports Podcast. Every week, anywhere podcasts are found, on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, literally everywhere podcasts are found. Give us a follow on social media at WinCity_sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Like, follow, subscribe, whatever it may be, and tell your friends, family, training partners, teammates about the WinCity Sports Podcast and help me spread the word of local athletes. We do interviews with local athletes, coaches, entrepreneurs, and more. And today is June 16th, 2022, and it's episode 260, and we're doing something a little bit different today. I'm joined by my commentator partner from the broadcast booth of the Windsor Express and the voice of the Windsor Express. You might know him for many other things as well, but the Frostfather Aaron Sanders. Welcome, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. 260 episodes, man. I got a long way to go, but I'll tell you, anytime I'm able to go on a podcast, it's going to be fun. And you know what? This is no exception right here. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm thrilled to be talking about everything that we're going to talk about today, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about. And you know exactly it. You're like the perfect guy to do it. We should have done this a long time ago, you know. And out of all the people out there like that know local Windsor sports, like I'm not gonna lie, I was impressed of how deep you are with everything. You know, like I knew you knew the NBL and all the basketball stuff and the soccer stuff, but you're into everything. So this is perfect.
This is the tag team poetry and motion and whatnot. It's like it's either with a Michael Cole and Taz, or we could be the Krillin and Goku. You never know. You never know.
Oh, the comparisons or the metaphors are endless, right? And that's part of the fun, you know. It's just have some fun with it.
All those broadcasts we did with the Express this year, we always had to bring in some sort of a reference or a joke, and all those references, it just makes the broadcasting business more entertaining. And that's what you got to do in this business if you want to go in there for the long run.
Yeah, it makes me and you a little more comfortable too, right? I mean, before that, it's not like we really knew each other at all. And, you know, but obviously kind of can pick up on a lot of our similarities. We're, you know, fans of similar things when it comes to sports or The Simpsons or wrestling or whatever it is, right? And if I can throw a reference out there that I like, if it makes me pop, and that's all I care about, but you like it too, it's like, you know, this is working. This is good.
We got a rib every now and then. Come on now.
Exactly. You got to have fun, man. That's what the business is all about. Well, we got to start with one thing. We're talking about the Spitfires, man. Before I even wanted to, I can't let you sit there forever, right? But before I even want to get to you guys, say, man, you know, they couldn't do it, but what a freaking run we had. What a year we had. And after it's all said and done, you know, before we even like really dig into all of it, when I was, you know, putting stuff online or even doing the last podcast, it's like I almost forgot this is the first season back after COVID, right? I forgot about it because of how, you know, how far they went and how deep this was. And really at the end of it, it was just great to have this back.
And you have to think about it too. In the last few years that the Spits have played a full OHL season, they haven't fared so well in the playoffs. And even before this season, it was, I want to say, about more than 10 years since they passed the first round. I'll tell you, they exceeded my expectations for this season, because I thought with the 2-year break, you know, there would be a lot of players that are rusty or a little green beneath their gills, if you will, for that. But I'll tell you, Matanushka, Wyatt Johnson, those guys, they amazed the daylights out of me, and I'm sure they have given the OHL and the CHL in general quite a scare. And unfortunately, you know, it didn't go the way they wanted to. But however, I don't think they're going to be one of those quiet teams anymore. In the next few years, they're going to be OHL title contenders. So expect them to make a run for not only the Cup, but for the Memorial Cup too in the next 3 or 4 years. They just got to make sure that they're able to keep all their guys, because there's a number of players that are overagers. But nonetheless, I think as long as you have that young core that is well disciplined, and of course Mark Savard at the bench, how can you go wrong?
Yeah, and you know, that's exactly shows I was right. You know, you definitely know what you're talking about, man, no matter what it is. And this team's so deep. I mean, you mentioned just a few guys as you go down the list. It's like every guy is such a big piece of the puzzle. And yeah, we're going to lose a lot of guys due to overagers. We lost guys 2 years ago too, right? So a whole new team, new coaching staff, and yeah, they impressed the hell out of me too. Like I figured they would be all right. Never would have thought they'd be in the OHL final back in September or October, right? So yeah, I mean, fuck, what more can you ask for? Like you said, and man, it was so exciting just to have that thrill back. So you even mentioned, you know, they hadn't fared too well in the playoffs pretty much since the Memorial Cup back-to-back days. So after that, 2011, they went to the conference final and lost for the Wayne Gretzky Trophy, which this year we even surpassed that. So in between that and the years that they made the playoffs, they didn't win a round. So, you know.
Yeah, it goes without saying, too. You know, I thought, because remember, they went through pretty much a carousel of coaches, even when they won the Memorial Cup back in 2017. If I recall correctly, we had Bob Bugner, as I call him, Boogie, and then we moved on to, I believe, Trevor Letowski.
It was Rocky before.
It was Rocky, then Trevor. There you go.
Trevor was the assistant with the Memorial Cup team. Then after that, Rocky stepped out, and yeah, but I mean, it's crazy when you think back to it too. I mean, that's kind of the thing with junior hockey in sports like that is like, you know, they can only be there for so long, so the teams change so quick, right? And as well as the coaching staff. So as we talk about that, I mean, the rumor mill, and it could go any way, but there's rumors that Mark Savard could be moving on to the NHL, and you know what, if he does. He coached 1 year at the pretty much, well, he assisted coached with St. Louis following their Stanley Cup, but this is the highest level he coached as a head coach, and the first year sends him to the championship. So,
and on top of that, he was very amazing when it came down to that. I mean, he showed great poise, and he helped these young players realize, you know, at their age, this is a big deal. And then at that point, in the next few years, they're going to be in the NHL or the AHL at that point. So he did a tremendous job. And it feels like the last few Spitfire coaches that has been along the way, they have gone to the NHL. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Bob Bugner, who had his turn with the San Jose Sharks, along with all the other coaches. But you know what? If he does go to the NHL, Mark Savard, then you know he deserves it, because I'm sure the NHL is going through a carousel of their own right now.
Oh yeah, a lot of jobs open. That's the thing too, right? So, and yeah, man, I mean, that's one thing that's always talked about here is the coaching staff, and how many great coaches we've had, whether come out of the Spitfires or come out of Windsor, Ontario, and Mark would just be another guy on the list, to be honest.
That's right. And you know what? I don't know how those young players could play in front of packed houses like that and feel no pressure. It's like you see them on the ice, you think it's effortless to them, but you have to think for a second or two. It's like they feel that pressure. They were able to rise to the pressure. Matter of fact, they beat the best team in the OHL on their home ice in game one of the final.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't knock the door open, I don't know what will.
That right away was like, we got something here. Like this is legit, right? Because I didn't like, a lot of people were like, oh, they'll be lucky to win a game, right? They win the first game at their barn in overtime, granted, but still, like, whatever it takes, right? And you mentioned, you know, those games at home. We got to go. Both of us got to go to every home game in the final. I got to go to some games throughout the entire playoff as well, and holy crap, man. It's like the old days, like we said so many times over and over, but it's true. And it's so good to see that back and to see the support. And it was just so fun. What do you think? I mean, like you said, taking in those games at the WFCU was fun, eh?
Well, I had a feeling that this wouldn't be the last time I would go to the WFCU Center covering the Express games. Like I knew somehow, some way, if I had a day off of work, I would go to the WFCU Center and watch the Spits play. It was the first time I've seen a Spits game in person since 2015, and that was way before I did my volunteer course with TV Cogeco, now Your TV. And I'll tell you, there is a contrast between the crowd back in 15 and the crowd now. It was crazy. We're talking about an average of 6,000 fans per game in games 3, 4, and 6. I went with my buddies for games 3 and 6, and then I went by my lonesome at game 4. I was able to get front row seats, which I didn't know how close I was to the ice, like 3 rows down from the side. It was phenomenal, and you could tell like the vibe was there, the intensity. We had a handful of Hamilton fans. It was just all good fun. And I heard some chants that I never heard in hockey before, some chants we will not mention on air, but nonetheless, it goes to show how sorely missed this was. Because remember, the first few months of the 21-22 season, it was without fans.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for a lot of people that don't know, I'm at the radio board at AM 800, and there are opportunities where I produce the Spits games too. And even I agreed when I started there at the beginning of the year, it's not the same without the fans. I mean, look, we love listening to Beller and Manny Pava, but you need the crowd to complete that terrific element that they bring. It's just a composition, or whatever you call it, in motion, poetry in motion. So those fans were allowed. I was debating whether or not to bring earplugs. I'm glad I didn't. I only brought my binoculars because everyone knows how bad my eyes are, even with these. But I was glad I was able to see them in person. And I'll tell you one thing, as far as the food goes and the funnel fries, I don't regret it one bit, except for one thing.
Well, you got to tell me.
Well, I'll tell you this. The poutine was a little bit salty. No, I'm not Guy Fieri, but even I know you can't put too much salt on fries. Like, come on, everybody.
It's a simple concept, too. If you can mess that up, then. And
it's a Canadian delicacy. How can you go wrong with it?
We talked about that, too, and you beat me to it before I even asked. And before we dig into that too much, did you go to Poutine Fest at all? Or did we talk about that at the game as well?
I did not go to Poutine Fest. It was a jam-packed week over at the station and elsewhere. If I wasn't at the station, then I was over at Aberg, PA announcing for the Windsor TFC. Yeah.
So that's also something I want to talk about too. But for people, if you don't know, like you mentioned, Aaron, you're on the board at AM 800, got to take in a lot of the games, maybe just audio lead. But something that I also talked about last episode was how important those crowds at home were. And as well as in Hamilton too, and would I rather it be that away team support or even for the home team. But you could tell that the players were pretty much playing for us at that point. Obviously playing for themselves as well, but if it wasn't for the crowd there, I think it would have made a big difference, and it almost made the crowd feel like they're part of the team, right? And lots of players that have played in Windsor will always talk about the fans and how loud they are and stuff. And another thing that we talk about too on the just whenever is we're not athletes, but one thing that we can understand is teamwork and leadership and atmosphere and just that feel that can be really hard to explain sometimes, but it's just that feeling of that in the crowd can make confidence, in a team.
We as broadcasters, everyone thinks that we have a hard job, but honestly, it isn't that hard. We just talk about what we see right in front of us. However, for those players that are down on the ice or the field or on the floor, what have you, it's a big task for them, and it's very important because they have a lot of eyes looking at them, whether it be spectators or fans or even broadcasters. And I mentioned this earlier. It's like you have to take a minute to just take a step back and realize how it feels to have that kind of pressure in there, knowing it could be a do or die situation, or it could be your first game, in an OHL uniform. I mean, those players, they have nerves of steel, don't they? And they have blades of steel. The fact that they were able to skate up and down for 60 minutes, pretty much almost endless, it makes me tired looking at it now and then. But you know what? I love sports, and it keeps me on my toes. But you'll never see me on the ice rink skating. I'll probably, I would fail right then and there. But the fact that they have enough strength to just skate down the ice and take those checks big time, my goodness.
And how physical has it been lately too? I mean, for a league that, over the years, they say it's gotten softer. Every game I went to in the regular season, there was a fight, I think. These little guys are so fast. And that's the thing too, is we got to see the top level of the OHL right in front of our eyes, right here in our hometown. This OHL final, the two best teams. And when you're up close and personal with that kind of hockey, like, holy crap, like you said, just the speed of it, it's pretty breathtaking, even though they're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old or whatever, right?
And despite the loss, I think I witnessed one of the greatest OHL Championship Series of all time. Number one, it went to the limit. Number two, you had the physicality. And number three, what matters the most on the paper is you had the best of the West versus the best of the East and nobody will sleep on the West or the OHL come Monday night for the Memorial Cup over in New Brunswick.
You got that right. That's exactly it too, man. Is, you know, after not having it for a bit too, it was a weird year. We didn't know what to expect going into it, right? We're broadcasters. We have to talk about this stuff. It's like, well, what's there to talk about? There hasn't been hockey in 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's like you said too. I mean, this team, they're going to have their core back, and they're going to keep pushing for these championships. So the future is bright in Windsor, to say the least.
You know, those players had a whole lot more than their Wheaties. It takes a lot of practice and drills to get to where they are today. And when it comes to 16, 17, 18-year-olds, honestly, I'm not surprised, because look at these high schoolers that are playing either in hockey or football or basketball. Athletic-wise, they have gotten better decade after decade. So it's no surprise that we're seeing some sort of physicality back into the world of sports, because let's say if we were talking in 2011 and 2012, we'd be saying what a disgrace some of the games have been since it's gone soft. There's some of the rule changes, which between you and me, I'll never get some of these rule changes. And plus the fact that we have to wait a little bit longer for a review when we clearly know it was just a common foul and not a flagrant foul. That's in basketball terms. But you know what? I was also surprised to see in the last couple of years a hockey coaches challenge, and the OHL adopted that too. I'm for it, but at the same time, I'm against it. But it goes to show that the game will change, and hopefully with that change, you know, the aggressiveness will come back to it too. Because if you had to ask me what's one of the most aggressive sports today, hockey is going to be on top of the list.
Well, no doubt about it, right? I mean, it always has been, and it pretty much always should be, right? So as you're talking to us, you know, there's people back in those days that tried to change things, you know, maybe for the right reasons, but again, it's like trying to take punching out of fighting, right? Like it's just going to happen, you know. Physicality is just, and even this year, now that I remember, they almost tried to eliminate body checking due to COVID restriction, right? And it's just not going to happen, right?
I mean, I could understand that too, but remember, like, say for example, if you're near somebody, you're trying to take a swipe of the puck, it's like you're going to get that contact one way or another. In the world of sports, there are very few sports where you could play without some sort of contact. However, when it comes to hockey, it's virtually impossible to do something like that. I mean, there was a lot of social distancing during, you know, the COVID side of this season. And for those of you just tuning in, when I mean, you know, the COVID side of the season, I mean from the beginning of the season up to the point where they allowed fans right back into the arena. It's a hard process, and you have to give credit to all the dignitaries in the OHL who was able to put this season together, even with the fact that they were going to start without fans. And then once they came in, I think it's safe to say that they were thoroughly pleased with the product this season. And as I always say, we're looking at this pandemic in the rearview mirror. I mean, we're hoping that we are. And next season, there's nowhere else to go but up.
Absolutely, man. I can only agree with that. It was a stellar year for the whole league, and that's another thing to kind of touch upon quickly is the fact that they didn't see each other, these two teams, and just due to like travel restrictions, I'm assuming, to, you know, try to keep things within their bubbles. So the West never played the East, and we never got to see these two teams face off. So we didn't know what to expect. And again, to talk about how you mentioned, you know, we might have seen one of, if not the best OHL final at least in 10 years. That's part of it too, right? Is that aspect, and boy, did they shock them.
Do any of the viewers remember when MLB used to not have the American League and the National League not mold together until the World Series? I think around until the mid 90s. It was sort of like that. You had that bubble, and it was pretty much reminiscent of that. I swore that Windsor played Hamilton early in the season or in the preseason. I may be wrong, but you know what? It just brings a whole lot more, you know, intensity and a whole lot more meeting when it comes to the OHL championships, because you could play one team 6 or 7 times. And then when you guys meet each other in the championship, you know, there may not be a whole lot of, I guess, hype to it. But when you go to a quote unquote unknown team in the championship, man, you could throw every stat away into the bin and just see how these two teams square off, because they were obviously different. We didn't see Hamilton until the championship. I didn't watch Hamilton until the championship. All we knew about were the Spits and the teams they were playing in the West, whether it was the Sioux or Guelph. But Hamilton, they got a very strong, I'll tell you, they have a strong line with Steos, and they have a great goaltender in Constantini too. So even though there was a lot of chance said to Constantini, he played pretty much on his head for the entire championship series. And I think for Hamilton, this was their biggest opponent yet. Oh, no. Now they have to play the Sea Dogs, Shawinigan, and Edmonton, all from different leagues. And it's all going to start in a matter of days. So preparation is going to be key. And these kids, oh man, they're going to be doing a whole lot of cramming in order to get one up over these teams in pursuit of the cup.
Yeah, the celebration doesn't start right away. And you know, again, to talk about Hamilton a little bit too, I mean, obviously they're going to lose some overagers, but I'm sure, you know, this is the second championship they've had in, 5 years or whatever, 7 years. I think they've only been an OHL team. 2 championships. So I'm sure that that's going to continue rolling. And as we talked about the fans and the atmosphere at the WSU, I didn't see it happening, but I'm sure you've seen this viral video of the beer pyramid at the WSU. I didn't even notice that was going on. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. You know what? I was in section 121. So all I had to do is just tilt my head down and turn to the right. And there was the beer pyramid during the second intermission. And I remember one of my friends and shout outs to Jordan and Cam and Kathy who came along to watch the game as well. We one of us were saying, you know what, they can't do that. Well, of course they can't do that. They can't do that during the game. But seeing that pyramid, it just adds to the entertainment. And there's a lot of teams that have different traditions or have a way to kill time during the intermission, because just imagine if you were a 5-year-old and if you're going to a hockey game for the first time and all you see is the Zamboni going up and down the ice for 15 minutes during the intermission, that wouldn't be fun. The first thing that would come out of your mouth would be, I wish I was a Zamboni driver one day, or I'm bored. Can I read a comic book? Can I go get some candy? Of course, that will be to the discretion of the parents. I feel bad for them because their wall is going to feel a little lighter, but nonetheless, to see that beard pyramid, that was awesome. It went viral on TSN too. Well, not only on social media, but I think it also got airtime on the television as well. So in a way, whatever it takes, we're going to be on TV.
That's just Windsor fans for you too, right? It's like, of course this is happening here, right?
And I also love the tailgating too. Yeah, I remember Monday, I had to haul it from the station over the WFCU Center. A friend of mine helped me on the way too. We didn't get to the arena till like about 6:30 or 6:35. And there are still people out there having a good time. A lot of inflatables out there, mascots. Man, I'm telling you, if it was like that each and every year, or pretty much each and every regular season home game, it could rival to the NFL or the CFL for that matter too. Yeah. I never seen a tailgate in a championship game of my life.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It was fun. And throughout the whole year, I mean, at least definitely in the latter half of the season, once things opened up and in the playoffs, they created a great atmosphere outside and did some good things that, you know, we'll probably end up talking about as well. You know, bringing in alumni and stuff like that for autographs and all these giveaways that they did. They did a fantastic job to bring people from Windsor, which is a tough market, down to the WSU Center for the return of hockey and the return season and for this run really too.
Well, I've said this plenty of times though, and when it comes to the WFCU Center, it is a beautiful arena. However, one of the things people would talk or lament about after all these years that the arena has been open has been location. Yeah. It's right in the middle. It's right in it makes that fine line between Windsor and Tecumseh.
Yeah.
Now it's a beautiful arena. However, there's a lot of people saying it's a bit too far. But then again, with those 6,000 fans coming in for a championship game, I don't think they mind either, you know, the traffic or the road to get there, whether if you're a West Ender or an East Ender. They realize that their boys were playing for the chip. Yeah. And whatever it takes, yet again, they will get there because they paid for a ticket. They're not going to waste a ticket. Matter of fact, they won't even lend it to anybody but themselves.
Yeah,
that was my motto when I got the tickets for games 3, 4, and 6. It's like, I'm going to sell it for nothing because this could be a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but hopefully, you know, the Spits go on for a deeper run. And, you know, we're all honored and humbled that we were able to bear witness to that. Losing side, yes, but rest assured there's a whole lot of promise, especially for this, hopefully for a post-pandemic era in the OHL, and we get everything back to normal again.
Yeah, and regardless of the outcome, which the only thing we kind of didn't touch upon, but we got to be part of something special. You know, we got to be part of that and go down there. So that's the thing. I was like, I couldn't miss a game. Even Monday, it was like another game, but whatever, man. Like we had like, what else? What I'm not gonna miss it for nothing. The only thing I guess we could. Did you get to watch the game or hear any of it or anything?
For Game 7?
Yeah.
Well, luckily I work in the afternoons over at AM 800, so I was lucky enough to hightail it and go to a friend's house to watch Game 7. I mean, as much as I would love to have watched it over downtown, let's face facts here. The heat wave wouldn't have let any of us do that, and I wasn't going to risk it. First off, it's like 90 degrees, and a lot of people don't know. Before I moved here about almost 20 years ago, lived in Texas for 6 years, and the only thing we had was like the dry heat and not the humidity. I didn't want to chance that because I know how hot it could get. And plus, when you're near the river, sometimes you get that cool breeze, not when it's 90 or 100 degrees, honestly. But the fact that they were able to have that event, well, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But again, it's like Jurassic Park, our version 3 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, it's a cool thing that they were able to do. If people didn't realize, they popped up a screen downtown, free popcorn and water. But yeah, no, I couldn't make it down there, man. I had to watch it from the couch. And, Hamilton just was the better team. And it's simply that. They were just all over them all game. Windsor couldn't do nothing. And that's what it came down to, man. I mean, again, and their barn, they opened it up. The biggest turnout to an OHL game ever, over 11,000. 11,778, I think it was. And pretty much it's what it comes down to, man. I don't know. There's not a lot for me, like a lot of takeaways from that game, except that Hamilton was just a better team.
A couple of things. 11,000 plus, that's big, especially for the Cops. And I still call it the Cops to this day. Number two, right off the draw, they looked like the tougher team. It only took them 2 minutes and 4 seconds to get a goal in. Now, those empty net goals, I don't think that was necessary, but then again, that goes with the game. All right. I watched it with my friends, and like I said, there are some things that I could repeat back on the show, but you know what? I'm promised to be a good boy, but they did not like the empty netters. That's all I'm going to say about that. But the Spits, I'm glad they were able to get a goal in before the end of the game and not get shut out, because that's not the way to go out, especially in a Game 7. Yeah. There was a lot of intensity there. I mean, it's a good thing they were. Yeah.
Not that the fight wasn't in them, it's just the Spits, again, a lot of the series too was like every team was trying to come out hot and get that hot start, right? And if they didn't, the Spits usually played the best in the second period. We've seen that on Monday. We've seen that on Monday too, where they came back in the second and pushed it through the third, right? But they needed one to get it started, and it was just too late. Made it a 4-1 game, I think. And again, if it was just a little bit sooner, when it was 3-0, I was like, fuck, if they can just get one, we got a chance here. But that was exactly it. And you know what? It is what it is because of the run that they had, everything we talked about before, and that the future is just so bright.
That's just going to give them inspiration. It's going to be a long off season for them. However, if it's long enough for them, they'll be able to practice and get right back into tip-top condition. And there's something else that I did not expect to come around in terms of social media. The release date for their first game of the season, October 1st. So between now and the 1st of October, that's a little bit, almost more than 4 months away. So for a lot of people, they hope that it goes fast because they're going to be on the road to redemption. I think everybody's going to be on the road to redemption. They were like that at the beginning of the season. 2-year break due to COVID. And if you thought those players were eager to get back on the ice near the end of 2021, just imagine how eager they're going to be at the end of 2022. It's going to be a great season. Not a guy of foreshadowing circumstances, but I think either Mark Savard or whoever is the coach for the Spitfires will have a good assignment to try to get back to the OHL finals.
100%. And you know what, just to touch upon that really quickly too, before we move on, if Mark is still here, I still wouldn't be surprised. I mean, just given what we were talking about before, it could kind of go either way, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's back. So again, future is just bright, man.
He's a terrific coach, and for him to do that in his first year in the OHL, well, that says a whole lot. I was looking at his graphic, the graphics they have before face-off and the technical difficulties on a certain station. Not going to mention any names, but no, they showed a graphic. It's like, I did not realize he did all of that stuff in the OHL. Like, I heard a lot from Beller and Manny Pava about his accomplishments, but looking at that on TV and just having the stats right in your face, you're like, good grief, this guy did a lot. He played for the Generals, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think he won the OHL championship at one time.
He won the OHL. I'm not sure if they won the Memorial Cup. I want to say, yeah, but I'm not sure. But he definitely is an OHL champion. So, to add it as a coach and a player would be pretty cool, right?
Don't you love it when a coach comes to a team and they have that experience in the league, despite them being in a team that they're pretty much not accustomed to yet? But yet, it goes to show that experience could help them, maybe a different game, but you know what, you show off, well, not show off, but if you show that pedigree and if you're very patient with these players, a lot of things could happen from them, and it's based off the leadership at the end of the day. So no matter where Savard goes, whether if he sticks with Windsor or the NHL picks him up, one of these teams is going to have a great coach.
No doubt about it. And at the very least, he got to start here in Windsor, and he'll always be one of ours. So
amen to that. Amen to that.
Well, now's a great time to tell you about our official sponsor of the WinCity Sports Podcast, Amherstburg Chevy Buick GMC, located on Sandwich Street South in Amherstburg. Buying a new or pre-owned vehicle has never been this easy. Head over to Amherstburg Chevy Buick GMC right now to find out how. They believe in customer service and satisfaction and try to make it their effort on each and every customer to make them happy and service their vehicles to the fullest extent. This includes picking out a ride, financing it, and keeping it in top quality condition. Go see the folks down at Amherstburg Chevy Buick GMC or check out amherstburggm.com for their showcase of inventory, do the online showroom, or go in person. Things are back in action, ladies and gentlemen. That's Amherstburg Chevy Buick GMC, located on Sandwich Street South, now serving Windsor, Essex, and beyond. So one thing that you always talk about, even if we're at the WFCU for a Windsor Spitfires game, is those 4 banners for the Windsor Express, our favorite. And, obviously off season right now and looking forward to the next season already, but we did have the all teams announced not too long ago, and we got at least one guy on every team. And between, for me and you, I mean, for people watching or listening, if they haven't seen us on NBL TV, we got to see almost every single home game together. I unfortunately missed a few, but we got to see this team, a lot. And you got guys like Billy White on the all-star or the all-team, and Ja'Kai Taylor, a newcomer, on the second, and rookies and stuff like that. So we'll get things started with talking about like your broadcast experience. A lot of it has been through the Windsor Express, and you've got to see pretty much that whole franchise, kind of grow as well. So I'm sure you got a big passion for that league. I know you do, and for the team. What can you say about them,
It's unbelievable that I've been with them since 2014, their first championship year, but I've been broadcasting for them since 2015, 2016. And there's going to be a lot of names that I'm going to drop here. So hopefully I get all of them. If not, then I apologize. I'm very bad at names. But honestly, it started back in 2014 in the middle of their first championship year. I was in St. Clair for my first year of journalism. Okay. And then I realized there was one course that I had to take, and it was called beat reporting, where you just cover one topic that's either your favorite or that you want to do. At first, a lot of people knew that I love sports, but I wanted to challenge myself, you see, and do something different. So I tried the technology side in terms of news. And after one event, I pretty much said there isn't a lot out there, because back then there was a whole lot less technology events until now with the advent of social media and the popularity of it, right? So I decided to go to my roots and go for sports. I heard about the Windsor Express, but I realized that with the WFCU Center being so far away and me being a West Ender, how am I able to do that? Well, if you can't drive, you have to be driven. You got to be driven by the passion of the sports. That's what I'm trying to say. So I decided to take on the Windsor Express, and they made me feel at home ever since. I was able to be a spectator for their Game 7 where they won against PEI for the championship, the Island Storm. It was a special moment, their first championship. And if I had the option to choose between reporting that game or just watching the game, I wanted to watch it because I never seen such a big do or die situation like that before. And for plenty of people out there that don't know, I lived in San Antonio, Texas for 6 years, used to watching the Spurs games in person. This felt like a Spurs game because everything was on the line. You had spectacular players like Stephon Bonneau, DeAndre Thomas, Chris Commons, and you have a couple of more players like Darren Duncan too. And it was all spearheaded by the guy that's been there since day one, Coach Bill Jones. So it was a spectacular thing to see. I also covered them as part of my internship course in 2015 alongside the guy for without whom I wouldn't have gotten this position. That's Brett Hedges. And everybody in local Windsor sports knows a thing or two about Brett Hedges, calling the Windsor Express games, calling St. Clair Saints, the Windsor Lancers, and now has his own show on Kojiko/Your TV, that sports show. He was the guy that was able to, give us a chance. But in 2015, 2016, I said to him, I want to broadcast for the Express games. I was already fresh off my first diploma in St. Clair. I was going to media convergence. So I'm like, okay, this gives me good experience. Then I went to Alejandro Domero, who was the director and producer of those games at the time, and said, it's like, hey, I like to do this. And at the same time, I was pitching for a local game show too, which we got 8 pilot episodes on the ground, off the ground. And will it ever meet the light of day? I don't know, but I still got those tapes just in case you want to see how short my hair was. But nonetheless, it was a different time. But nonetheless, he helped me get those pilots for my game show off the ground and helped me get a chance out there to be the broadcaster. And my first assignment was to be the halftime and post-game show co-host. My co-host at the time, the one and only JP Justin Prince. So he already had experience working with the Windsor Express broadcast in their second championship year. But now, both of us together, I thought it was going to be interesting. And we were able to do that for 5 great seasons. But we didn't think we would pass our second broadcast because our first broadcast, Boxing Day 2015, okay? And I'll be honest with you, I never get nervous when I'm in front of the camera. I don't know how it could be experienced. I don't know. But I'm glad that I don't get nervous. But, I get amped up. So I was never nervous, especially in the first broadcast. But JP and I, we decided to write our notes down in a notebook. So we had papers flying everywhere trying to get from point A to point B. And then our microphones were short-circuiting, so we didn't know if people could pick up our voices or not. So we were thinking after that first broadcast, it's like, yeah, if we are able to come back for our second game, then that would be a miracle. We came back from the second game. We got better at it. And then a couple of years later, Brett Hedges left, and we jumped on to call the games. So every 2 games, I would be the play-by-play guy, and JP would be the play-by-play guy for those 2 games, and I would switch as color commentator. We did that up until COVID. And, he didn't come back for the 2022 season, and, that's different from me. But, in the world of broadcasting, you got to adjust. You got to change at will. You got to fire at will. If you could call things on the fly, then you could do a lot of things on the fly. You came in 2022. Enough said. We were able to do a lot of things that, a lot of people did not expect for us to do. But honestly, this season was a special one. 150 games, which, man alive, that's still looking back at it. And it's like, I'm glad we were able to get a backup of the broadcast. Because that would have been a rough week for everybody.
Yeah, no, it's a long inside story, I guess. But we almost lost this entire game, right? Game footage, and someone bailed us out, and we have to thank them, of course. And that was Aaron's 150th broadcast with the Windsor Express. It was what a game it was too, though, right? Like it wasn't even just that; it was like the game itself was a nail biter. It was exciting, and I think it was even the same game that kid hit the the half court shot.
I think so. If not, then it was before that. But
Yeah.
you know what? Just imagine a kid going up there, hitting a half court shot and winning $200. Yeah, that's that is special. But the Express played against the Jamestown Jackals of the TBL, which for those of you that haven't heard, there was a deal that was made, and the partnership between the Basketball League in the States and NBL Canada, it's going to go on for a while, and there's going to be more details of what that partnership entails in the coming days, weeks, and months. But that 150th game, that was something we were able to call a playoff game too, despite the outcome going, onto the wayside. It got us a lot of experience in terms of one of these postseason games.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be remiss if we did not mention all the people that made it possible. First off, our producer / director, Christina. She was awesome this first year.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to have her back for her second season. Cade on the camera.
Yeah.
He was new to the whole basketball scene, but he did a tremendous job. Roger Faubert, who was our technical advisor, he was the one that was able to help us, number one, get on air, and number two, make us look proper and professional, right? Then, of course, Dardis Willis, who you had on the show a while back, too. I mean, I honestly, without whom I guess we wouldn't be donning the headsets these days. And, of course, the Ian Fowler Executive of the Year, Aaron Basterfield. Man alive. I mean, the fact that the game day crew and the whole Windsor Express organization just basically said, we're going to have basketball back in 2022. That says a whole lot. We were able to reunite the fans with pro basketball in Windsor.
Yep.
And none of that would have been possible without them, without great people on board like Emily, Chantel, Hanuk, Bobby Sproat, the in-game announcer, the PA announcer, which we talked about time and time again on NBLC TV, Mark Knight.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's been there for pretty much everything from the Spits to the Express to the Fratmen. We have a great crew. And now it's just a matter of, we don't want to reflect too much on this year, right? We want to reflect for a quick second and then look forward to 2022, 2023.
Oh, yeah.
10th season for the Windsor Express.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a huge turnaround year for the Express too. And man, you're entirely right with everything you said there. I mean, you even talked about kind of when you got started and the struggles and uncertainty. And we've seen a little bit of that this year just with the break and stuff. And you said, you guys got better as you started to gain experience, and so are we, and so am I, right? And again, this one, I never did any of that stuff before either, right? So it's been fantastic, man. And again, just to have it back in Windsor too is another big thing that we're all really excited about. But so I know you're from San Antonio. You came down here a long time ago, I'm sure, and then always just been a big sports fan and wanted to get into journalism, and obviously wanted to get into what you love, right? Is that how it all went down?
Oh, well, being a military brat, it takes you from point A to point B and perhaps point C. A lot of people don't know that I was born in North Dakota, believe it or not, one of the coldest states in the United States.
Yeah.
Would I go back there for a visit? Yes, but not during the winter. So I was there for 3 years and then moved to Windsor in 1999 for a few months because our house was being built over in San Antonio. And then when that was finished, we moved there. And then I lived there from 99 to 2005. And it was interesting that we moved on that year because I think I witnessed the last best NBA Finals, Spurs and the Pistons.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, my God.
It was one of the last best series before, the new era with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and along all those other great players too. But it was tough. You had the going to work Pistons and you had, the big three for San Antonio, which was awesome. And that was a hell of a way to end my stay in the United States before moving here. So I've been here for almost 17 years now. And I'll tell you, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to do play-by-play for basketball. I remember just staying up at night without my parents knowing that when the Spurs were playing in the West Coast, they usually start around 9 p.m. local time, which would be 10 here. So I would stay up till like 12 to watch these games and quietly do play-by-play. And then, if I get caught every now and then, he's like, hey, it was worth it. I love these guys. Now you know why I love the Spurs. But honestly, I seen them play at a big stadium called the Alamo Dome, which wasn't good for basketball, but good for baseball, football, and everything else. And then in their modern arena too. I actually went to their very first game at the then SBC Center, preseason game against New York. How the heck did we lose against the Knicks in the preseason? I'll never know. We had everybody on board. Yeah, I thought, it's a slap of the face, but nonetheless, we won the championship of that same year. So can't go wrong with that. But honestly, I even told a lot of people, hey, this is what I want to do when I grow up. If I don't make it and play basketball, I'm going to call it. And I didn't think that I would be able to do something in terms of sports until going into college, because I want to be a computer graphic designer. So all those graphics you see on those sports broadcasts, that's what I wanted to do. And then someone said, you have the voice. I have to thank my religion teacher, Ms. Grapka, for telling me that, because without that, I wouldn't have that confidence to do it. And I guess the whole class of 2013 over at Assumption High School, go Raiders, they said that. And I said to myself, no. I appreciate the support, but I don't know what I'm going to do with my career. And they supported me, and I went on for that. And I was able to flip from computer graphics designer to just working in journalism. And, like they say, the rest is history. And all that I accomplished. And I'm still a young man, lest you forget this old man still's got a career ahead of him, 26 going on 27.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. Like first off, you're fantastic at what you do, man. There's no doubt about that. The play-by-play, you can do it alone, and I feel like I need to try and help you, but you don't even need me, man. Like you call the game perfectly, and I didn't realize you were like, I knew you were from Texas, but I didn't know you were there during that time. Like that's my heyday of basketball fandom. I was a Pistons fan, right?
When basketball was tough.
Yeah.
The last tough era.
That's the Bad Boys 2.0, right? Like that's I was so into that. And for, when you meet people in Windsor, we talk about big sports, obviously Detroit comes to mind. I didn't realize you were in San Antonio on the other side of things, seeing games in person. Like that's crazy, man.
Oh, I missed those rivalries. So, I mean, it was honest. It was a good day when, number one, Ben Wallace was inducted to the Hall of Fame. And number two, same with Tim Duncan. Yeah. It was surreal to see him, not in a jersey, but in a suit. And if you follow Tim Duncan, he's not a suit and tie guy. He takes it calmly. He's one of those laid back players. But I had a feeling when he retired in 2016 that it was going to come, because they just got eliminated by the Thunder in the second round. And that was when they still had Kawhi Leonard. And again, I'm not bitter about him leaving the Spurs for the Raptors. I thought, honestly, I think I'm one of the few to say, it was the right thing for him to do, because I think he was mistreated in his final year in a Spurs uniform when he was injured. But I have a feeling he was good to go to play that season. But nonetheless, you have all those players. And then, of course, the GOAT coach, Greg Popovich. How can you go wrong with that? It was a good era.
Yeah.
Now they're going to rebuild for a few years. So I'm not expecting much. If they make the play-in, then by all means, cheers to them.
Yeah. Well, it happens, right? Every few years that you're there pretty much. And like you said, you got to see some greatness, man. I don't get to see a lot of that anymore. I mean, I had the Pistons back in the day, but I'm a Leafs fan, so I don't get too much. And that's why it was cool to follow this Spitfires team again, and I got to see some championships from them. I got to see some championships from the Express as well, and obviously that too. But that's where most of your stuff started, I guess. Actually, before I even get into that, you talked about you do all the graphics and stuff. A lot of people don't realize, I mean, you're in front of the camera, behind the mic as well, but you're doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff at AM 800, the NBL Canada, and that's where I know you do have a lot of experience with the league and with the team. And that was kind of how it got started, or?
It's hard to believe, and just looking back at it and just doing what I did this season, it's tremendous. And once again, the reason why you're broadcasting with me for the Express is I knew you applied to be the team correspondent for the Express. They already had somebody, but I knew right then and there, it's I'm not going to pass that opportunity to have Drake DeMore, of all people, to join us. So I basically said, look, if he's not a team correspondent, he's going to be working for the Express either way, like calling the games. You want to get your foot in the door in broadcasting, and there you are. And again, whether if it's helping me with all the other NBLC stuff or this, I'm forever grateful because, yes, it may look like I'm a one-man show when I'm calling the games and just doing the scoreboard and just producing all of that stuff. But I think it goes without saying, you can't get anywhere in life without, the support and help of pretty much anybody. Yeah. And I was taught that at a young age. It's like, it's not all about you. It's all about what you could do for not only yourself, but what you can do to help the people, help them grow. Because if you help them grow, people realize it's like, hey, you got something right there. The main reason why I ended up doing the graphics this year is because, again, a little bit careful with the COVID situation. Because remember, we started this season in February and we were just in the process of, with the mask mandates being removed and whatnot. But I figure, I don't want to put anybody at risk. That's why I did it. And I love doing the graphics. I think I've been doing the Express's graphics since I came in 2015, 2016. I just saw that as an opportunity to make the broadcast more professional, more legible from afar. And, I just went in for it. It's like, it's not a matter of, hey, I'm hiring you to do the graphics. I did it myself because I saw that opportunity. It's like, there's a whole lot more to me talking about basketball. You have to pay attention to details. What we see on TV is what most people would expect from us or from London or KW or Sudbury. So we want to meet that standard as best as we can with what we have. And, at the end of the season, we look back at it and we see what we could do, what we could change. And that's the beauty of it. That's what keeps us hungry. There's always room for improvement, and we always try to top ourselves each and every game. That's what I want to do. That's what I hope for our broadcast team. And we're going to go places. We're not going anywhere for a long time. This is our baby, bottom line.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I'm all in now, right? And this team again. You mentioned, you need the support. You need the supporting cast. You need networking too is everything, and you touched upon it too. But our team, I think, has really come together, especially in the latter half of the season between you, Christina, and Cade. And we're the new kids on the block, but we're doing it, man, and it's pretty cool to be part of it all. And from there, your experience has obviously expanded. I know you did St. Clair. You do PA announcing with the Lancers, Windsor TFC as well. So things have really been picking up for you, and probably the pandemic screwed it up, but you got to further your experience just by doing one thing and then doing more, right?
And the thing I was gonna put the headset up, for real, because I remember in the middle of 2021, we're thinking it's like another year of this, another year of not being able to brush up on my skills and cover something that I loved. Like there was a lot of doubts for me personally, but then again, I'm not the only one that had all those doubts. Like a lot of people, they were losing their jobs and they were, they were caught over a barrel, whether or what to do next. It's either they pursue other endeavors or, just be patient until, things slowly but surely open up. But when I heard the news that NBLC was going to go on with their 10th season, I knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel. With that came with AM 800, and with those two that came with the Lancers and doing the online show for NBL Canada. And with that, I was able to meet, a terrific person in Karis Mapp, who, once again, she made the trip for one of the games, even though KW won. It was a good experience. And again, that contest is still on, Karis. The best pizza, Kitchener in Windsor. We have to do it sometime.
Yeah, she's got to bring it. If I'll go up there. I'll buy one of those delivery cases. We'll put a Windsor pizza in there, make sure it's as warm as can be, and we'll bring it up because there's no competition, man. We're gonna win this thing.
Amen to that. And on top of that, too, the league had their first All-Star weekend in years. It was over in Syracuse, New York.
Yeah,
and it was an amazing experience. But my experience almost did not come to be. Let's just say, a lot of timing and bad timing in terms of passports. If I didn't get that passport a few days before they were going to heave ho to Syracuse, I wouldn't have had that experience, but everybody had a heck of a time. I wish you came along too, because they had some good places to eat food, and their gym, Liverpool High School, seats 3,000 people. Now that's the States for you, folks.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that too after you went. It's exactly it, man. And to talk about the TPL real quick before anything else, did you see? Was it Miles Copeland? Did you see what happened with him?
In terms of Miles, I believe that was the player that helped resuscitate a referee who
he's
ended up having a heart attack.
Yeah, he's a firefighter, I guess, on a regular day. I seen Front Office Sports posted about it, and so he's a basketball player, and I guess he worked his shift, worked his 24-hour shift, and went up to the game wherever he's plays for Glass City, I think, and the ref went down, and he say that's just crazy stuff that happens. It's just within our realm too of basketball and the league that we got to work with too. So that was pretty crazy. I wanted to bring that up. And you've been doing some international commentating too in Italy. Like, how did that come to be, man?
Well, I ended up doing one game. I'm not doing commentary for them right now, but hey, I did one game, and you know what? That's good enough for me. I had that experience.
Yeah.
There was a person who followed the league since day one. I think he was one of the founders of NBL Canada, and we're a part of this broadcast group from around North America. And he saw some of my stuff that I was doing, and he gave me a contact, basically said, hey, I run this Facebook page, and we usually get, the English commentary rights to do, basketball games from around the world. And I thought of you. Would you like to give it a try? Of course I would. And then I was able to do one game of LBA Serie A playoff action. And I'll tell you, that league has former NBA player Marco Bellinelli, for those of you that don't know. And it was good. Even though I did one game with them, it showed that there's a lot of opportunities. And plus, virtually, it's possible.
Yeah.
No, literally, virtually it's possible. You know what I mean? But no, well, think of it. In the last few years, a lot of broadcasters, around the world, instead of just taking a risk of either contracting COVID by calling the game in person, they get themselves into a little bubble called Zoom or Skype or what have you, and they call the games there. ESPN's done it. Sportsnet has done it.
Yep.
And it gets to the point where you could call the games either on location or on remote. It's a good opportunity, but I prefer calling the games in remote. I mean, I prefer calling the games in person.
Yeah.
Because there's you get a lot of fans, and, it just hypes you up a little more than what you get. But if I'm able to call a game, from the confines of my house, then, hey, I'm not going to say no to that.
No, again,
it was a great experience.
Yeah, it just creates opportunities, right? It creates opportunities, creates experience, and remotely too. It's kind of interesting, kind of cool. So, I mean, that's one of the things I've seen that you're doing lately. I mean, you got your regular job at AM 800, NBL, Windsor Express, and who knows what else, could come in the future. I mean, this is it, man. This is just the beginning, right?
It's a lot, and I promised myself when I got the AM 800 job that I would make up for the 2 years that I was, off work. And there's no such thing as a day off for me, even though my body usually taps out sometimes, like it's in the coquina clutch or something. But it's either I'm bowling or I'm just doing something to prepare for either the next game or for the next shift. So I have a lot to make up for, but hopefully that I'm able to give my body that kind of rest too, and realize there's a whole lot more than everything else. But I don't want to take any moment for granted, because I remember on March 11th, 2020, JP and I were set to call the Express game. Okay, we called the Express game, and we were fresh off the OCAA Championship. So we called that for the entire weekend on the women's side. Spectacular. And I remember telling JP before the game, is like, with all the stuff that we have done in the last few weeks, I wouldn't mind having a break. So in the middle of the Express game, we were brought to our attention the fact that Rudy Gobert contracted this thing called a coronavirus, and he mocked it a day before.
Yeah.
Not going to go any further than that, but we thought
know the rest.
Everybody knows the rest. We endured it. We endured it. But seriously, at the end of the game, we were thinking this may be the last time we're going to be at the WFCU Center for a while. either in terms of a road trip or just in general. And then we heard the NBA, they have suspended a game and they have suspended their season. And we didn't think this was a real deal. Then I went home, turned on the TV, and yeah, they canceled a game, and we knew this was something else. And I was kicking myself mentally because I shouldn't have said all this stuff, because every time I say I need a break, something bad happens. So I learned my lesson. I think those 2 years made me realize, number one, you don't want to take everything, for granted. Like, be appreciative of what you have right now, because you may never know what could change or what could happen down the road. And number two, be appreciative of what you have. You can't just complain and say, why don't I have this? Or, I wish I was doing something right now. It's all those lessons that we learn. It's funny, when we are away from either our jobs or our hobbies for a long time, that absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Well said. Well said, man. And I'm so happy we're back to doing all this stuff. It's been too long. And again, it was cool to kind of tell your story on here, man, and come and shoot the shit with me, talk about the Spits. And if you don't mind, we'll wrap it up and talk a little bit about the Windsor TFC and some other local sports news. Because obviously, as we mentioned, you're the PA announcer for them. They're 2-6 so far this season, but their last game was actually at the Libro Field on Wednesday. Last Wednesday, 2-1 final in favor of the FC London. So, what did you take out of that one? Were you there? Or?
Well, believe it or not, I wasn't there at the game because I was unable to get out there, and on top of, so I wasn't able to get out there, unfortunately. But I know I was there for the game on Sunday, where actually they beat North Mississauga SC 6-0. And not a lot of people expected them to win 6-0. This is still a growing team, but there's a lot of potential. First off, shout outs to the owner of Windsor TFC, Voncho Surovsky, along with Sasho, as we call him Big Sash. I mean, those two are like the dynamic duo. Makes my job pretty easy. The coach, Walter Cosenza, he's from Brazil, and he does a hell of a job with these boys. Very patient, very passionate too. Their assistant coach, who used to work around for the Windsor Express, Shane Topalovic.
Yep.
He is the man, one of the best in the city, and I defy anyone that says otherwise. But these players, they are young, and they are filled with a lot of energy. It's like they're not hesitating at all when they go to the pitch. When they realize they have an opening, they're going to go for it. They're going to strike. And despite what it shows on their paper, their record, I think in the next few years, they're really going to make a key difference in League One Ontario. And even the league itself, it's growing and growing each and every day. Just think of it. In a few years, they may have like a major partnership, and they may have a whole lot more to that than you think. So at the moment, they're playing at Libro Field in Amherstburg. And hopefully in the next few years, we see a whole lot more fans grasping soccer, because number one, Windsor TFC, they're affiliated by the Toronto FC.
Yep.
Need I say more?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And the game is growing in Canada too. Even just announced today, Toronto and Vancouver are going to be host cities for 2026, right? And Stephen Adamalu is playing again, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen something about him playing, so at least for the TFC. So their next few games are going to be on the road, actually, this Saturday, taking on Alliance United. And their next home game isn't until July 3rd, a 4 p.m. game against Vaughan, Missouri. Other news, we got Tecumseh native, former world champion Linda Moray, among 12 athletes named by Wrestling Canada to Team Canada for the 2022 Commonwealth Games. She's 28 years old, from Tecumseh, and she's going to be competing in the 68 kilogram division. Have you keeping up? Are you into the Windsor Clippers at all? The junior B lacrosse team. They're always fantastic.
Man, I've heard of them. I wish I was able to attend a game. I wish I attended a game a few years ago, because I know lacrosse is one of those main sports here in this great nation. But if you're able to go to a lacrosse game, go for it. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into that game.
Oh, yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah, another tough sport too. I mean, we talked, that hockey would be at the top. I mean, lacrosse is up there too, man. A tough sport, and they're always good. They've been so good for so many years, and they're actually playing right now. Their game just kicked off as we're talking here on Thursday. They got 2 more left at Forest Glade Arena, one right now. They've already clinched playoffs, and they have 1 more to go this Saturday, 7 p.m. versus the Six Nations Rebels. That's going to be a tough and exciting team to play against. Going into tonight's game, they're 14-4, tied for second place in the league amongst 3 other teams with 28 points. And above them, and number 1 is Elora Mohawks, who the Clippers actually defeated last Sunday. So it's going to be another good year for them, and I'm looking forward to see what they can come up with.
Honestly, if I'm able to make at least one game, I'll realize how spectacular this team is, because we've heard all about them. Even if you're just touching down in Windsor for the first time, that's pretty much what you're going to hear on social media. If it's not the Spits, it's the Clippers. If it's neither of them, it's either the Saints, Lancers, Express, and all the other terrific teams, especially in high school too.
Yeah.
So we have everything here. And to be honest, it's a little bit disappointing that a lot of people usually knock on Windsor and their sports, but this is a sports city. I don't care what anyone says. We're the home of 215,000+ people. Okay. But our passion for sports rides high. I mean, it could rival Niagara, London. It could even rival the GTA region. That's how far we could go with that.
With everything too. I mean, it's not just hockey, right? It's every sport has such a rich history here. And I mean, it's part of the reason why I do this, man.
Well, think of it too. The reason, how about those London and Windsor rivalries? We talked about it time and time again at the Express games. We said, look, this is not only, the Express and Lightning, or the Mustangs and Lancers, or the Falcons and the Saints, or even the Spits and the Knights. I mean, this is London and Windsor. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You're going to have people jumping on board and seeing, who will be the better team for one game.
That's exactly it, man. That's part of the reason why I love it. This is the passion. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about or add before we wrap it up, man?
Well, first off, I want to thank you for the opportunity of coming here. Hopefully we get to do something like this again. Second off, to my family and friends, wouldn't be possible without you guys. Thank you for all my employers all these years. Like, you helped me become the man I am today in terms of broadcasting and in general. So thank you again. Thank you to the great Windsor Express organization and all the other companies that I have worked with in the past and working with now. Hopefully we continue this relationship into deeper lengths in the years to come, because I'll tell you, I'm not there yet, but I ain't through either. That's my motto. So cheers to everybody that has helped me get here today. This isn't for me. This is for everybody, and that's the bottom line.
That's exactly it. And the Frostfather said so.
You got that right. Oh, one more thing. Want to give credit once again to Emily Marley, who made this terrific mug. We were at the end of the season party, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. She does a hell of a job for the Windsor Express, and it should be noted, she's one of the best in terms of her job in Windsor. So cheers to you.
No doubt about that. Well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks a lot. That's it.
It's an honor and a pleasure. Let's do it again sometimes, and we're going to stay in touch 100%.
You know it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as the sun goes down and I wrap up this episode of the WinCity Sports Podcast, maybe the last one for a little bit. I was talking to Aaron Sanders, my broadcast partner from the Windsor Express. What a fantastic show we had, and we're looking to do more stuff together like that in the future. Will it be on WinCity Sports? We don't know. But as I talked about in recent episodes, things have just been catching up with me. Life's been getting in the way, and at least I'm going to take a little break for the summer. I have made some requests for some possible interviews with the Windsor Spitfires, so be cautious of that to pop up. But aside from that, looks like I'll be taking a little bit of a ride into the sunset. I'll always be doing something in Windsor sports, media, whatever it may be. And WinCity Sports will always have a presence on social media. We might move into that, do some interviews on the social media side, and just keep you up to date with Windsor sports, post stuff like a lot of these hockey collective or hockey history Instagram pages that you see. There will be WinCity Sports out there forever. All of our podcasts will always be available on Spotify, Apple iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, wherever they're found forever. They will be archived. They are history pieces to go back and listen to people like Glenn Mills to tell the history of the Essex Ravens, like Mark Savard to tell his story before this run with the Windsor Spitfires, like Dardis Willis to talk about the Windsor Express, and so much more. Tons of hockey players, football players, basketball, entrepreneurs, you name it. I've had so many, and there's so many people that I didn't get to on WinCity Sports, like Ty Domi, Luke Wilson, my freaking cousin Scott Demore. So many people that I've tried so hard and almost came close to getting, and some nowhere close, but it's been a lot of fun, and it ain't over yet. Like Aaron said, it's been fun, but we're not there yet. We're not through yet. So check us out. We're on social media at WinCity_sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Tell your friends and family. You can also follow me, Drake Demore, on Twitter and Instagram at Drake Demore. And like I always say, it's not goodbye. It's just smell you later.